You want to be fast like Isaiah, shoot like Bird, rebound like Barkley, pass like Magic, be dominant like Shaq. So, man, I wanted to be like Mike.
The man with the most aura. There are legends, there are superstars, and then there's the guy other legends still talk about like he's not. Completely human. Players call him Black Jesus. Opponents swear he was glowing when he walked into the arena. Some of the greatest to ever hold a basketball still catch themselves sounding like fans when they tell stories about him. We're talking about Michael Jordan, the man whose name became shorthand for greatness. You don't say someone is the LeBron James of heart surgery or the Kobe Bryant of tax lawyers. You say, he's the Michael Jordan of whatever he does. That's how deep this man's aura goes. But aura doesn't just appear out of thin air. It's built, brick by brick, game by game, quote by quote, through moments that make grown professionals feel like kids again. So today, we're going deep into the stories that built the myth, the times he turned trash talk into a personal revenge tour, the way he tortured teammates in practice, the gambling obsession, the billionaire empire, and the hidden cost of being Black Jesus in sneakers. Because the real question isn't just was Michael Jordan the GOAT, it's this: how did one human being become so feared and respected that his entire existence feels like a sports urban legend that actually came true?
When grown men saw a glowing human.
Before we even talk stats, we have to talk about how people describe just being around him. Allen Iverson, a cultural icon in his own right, said that seeing Michael Jordan for the first time was like seeing someone who wasn't real. He compared it to Black Jesus and admitted it was the one time in his life where another person looked like they were glowing. Reggie Miller has his own classic story. As a rookie in 1987, he goes off in a preseason game and starts chirping at MJ. Teammates dare him to keep talking, so he does. At halftime, Reggie's feeling good. He's outscoring Jordan. Then the second half starts. Jordan locks in, drops 40 in the half, and finishes with 44 to Miller's 12. On the way out, he tells Reggie, "Be careful you never talk to Black Jesus like that again." That's not media narrative. That's a Hall of Famer telling you he learned, in one night, that this dude played by different rules. Go back to 1986, Boston Garden. Michael scores 63 on one of the best teams ever, coming off a broken foot. And Larry Bird looks at the media and says it was God disguised as Michael Jordan. When your rivals call you God, when your peers call you Black Jesus, when future legends talk about you like you're glowing, that's aura. But as crazy as those descriptions sound, they're just the surface layer. The real horror story starts when somebody pokes the dragon.
You don't poke the dragon.
Michael Jordan didn't just like competition, he lived on disrespect. Real disrespect. Imagine disrespect. Maybe disrespect if you squint. It didn't matter. If he could twist it into something personal, you were done. Before the 1992 NBA Finals, some analysts suggested that Clyde Drexler might have an edge over Jordan. Because he was a better three-point shooter, it's not exactly an insult, just a comparison. But to Jordan, that was all he needed. In Game 1, he walks out and calmly hits 6 threes in the first half, setting a finals record and casually ending the conversation. Then there's the LaBradford Smith story. A little-known guard drops 37 points on the Bulls in a game against Washington. Afterward, Jordan tells teammates that Smith had walked up to him and said, "Good game, Mike," as if mocking him. The next night, in a back-to-back, Jordan says he's going to match those 37 points by halftime. He goes out and scores 36 in the first half alone. Years later, he admits that LaBradford Smith never actually said anything. Jordan made it up. He invented the disrespect just to give himself an excuse to go nuclear. That was his pattern. In Utah, he dunks hard on 6'1" John Stockton. The Jazz owner yells, "Pick on someone your own size." Next possession, Jordan attacks the rim and hammers a dunk on 7'1" Mel Turpin. Then looks over and asks, "Is he big enough?" Stories like that spread through the league like campfire tales. Dikembe Mutombo brags that MJ never put him on a poster. The very next meeting, Jordan drives, goes right at him and dunks. Then, just to twist the knife, he gives Mutombo his own trademark finger. Wag back. Nobody in the league had the nerve to clown Mutombo with his own celebration, except the one guy even shot blockers feared. There are stories of Jordan counting his points backwards while torching defenders, calling out the number after each bucket as he walked them down to 0. If he got to 0, That meant 40 points. That's not just a scorer. That's a supervillain with a shot chart. All of that was scary enough between the lines. But he didn't leave that mindset on the court.
Competing at everything: cards, coins, and 36 holes of golf.
Imagine someone who treats everything like Game 7. On the 1990 Dream Team, Jordan wasn't just dominating games. He was waging war on golf courses, card tables, and basically any situation where you could put money or pride on the line. One story has young Christian Lettner beating him in ping pong. Jordan's so embarrassed that he has a table delivered to his room, works on his game in private, and waits for the rematch just to crush him and restore the natural order. In Chicago, the Bulls used to run cute animated races between cartoon bulls on the Jumbotron. During timeouts, MJ would bet Scottie Pippen on which one would win. What Pippen didn't know was that Jordan would go out before games, watch the test run of the animation, and memorize the result. So every bet looked like luck, and somehow he always seemed to win. There's the famous pitching pennies game you saw in The Last Dance, where he's gambling backstage with his own security guys. One day, the security guard, John Michael Wozniak, actually beats him and hits MJ with his own shoulder shrug celebration. That clip went viral. Again decades later, because it showed something rare: Michael Jordan losing at anything. And then there's the golf obsession. In the '86 playoffs, Celtics guard Danny Ainge told a story about beating Jordan on the golf course between playoff games, annoying him just enough that Jordan came back the next night and dropped a playoff record 63 points on Boston. This man turned a casual round of golf into fuel for one of the greatest performances in NBA history. Teammates recall him playing 36 holes of golf on game day, knocking back beers, rolling into the arena saying he's seeing 3 rims, and still going out and scoring 40 or 50 like nothing happened. All of this fed into rumors and criticism about his gambling. The league looked into it in the 90s, and while no punishments ever came down, the whispers never fully went away. Some fans saw a guy who just loved to compete. Others saw an obsession that crossed the line. But if that's how he treated security guards and coin flips, imagine the standard he held for the guys wearing the same jersey.
Teammates in the line of fire.
Playing with Jordan meant you signed up for greatness. It also meant you signed up for war. Teammates from that era say practices were often harder than games. Jordan would treat scrimmages like elimination rounds, screaming at teammates, calling them soft, demanding perfection on every possession. If you survived that, the playoffs felt almost calm. The most famous example is Steve Kerr. During one practice, Kerr and Jordan start jawing at each other. Kerr isn't backing down. Eventually, Jordan snaps and punches Kerr in the eye. Kerr ends up with a black eye. Jordan later calls him to apologize, and they become close. But that moment became the symbol of his win-at-all-costs leadership. Style? Well, Purdue tells a similar story. He sets a hard, legal screen on MJ in practice. Jordan warns him once. The play gets called again. Purdue sets the same screen. This time Jordan walks up and just nails him. No ball, no whistle, just hands. Next day, Purdue is on the plane with a massive shiner, and everyone knows exactly who did it. When the Bulls traded Charles Oakley, one of Jordan's closest friends, for Bill Cartwright, MJ took it personally. He called Cartwright Medical Bill, referring to his injuries, and would fire impossible passes at him on purpose to make his hands look bad in front of the team, instead of ice-breaking jokes. This was how he tested whether you were strong enough to stick around. Scott Brell became his favorite target late in the Bulls' run. In The Last Dance, you see MJ ride him nonstop, calling him lazy, soft, anything to try and pull something extra out of him. Brell later defended him, saying Jordan was preparing him for playoff pressure. Not everyone agreed that it was worth it, but for Jordan, there was no other way. Then there's Quayne Brown in Washington, 18 years old, first overall pick, idolizes Jordan, and suddenly he's sharing the floor with him instead of a warm welcome. Reports have Jordan and veteran enforcer Charles Oakley constantly on him, tearing into him in practice, clowning him in front of the team. Some people believe that environment crushed his confidence before his career even got going. Here's the thing, all those stories happen on teams that won 6 rings in Chicago, a generation of role players with hardware largely because they survived his standards. The tricky part is separating what was necessary to build a dynasty from what was simply Jordan's own anger issues spilling over. But whatever you think about his methods, the results made it very hard to argue with him.
The numbers behind the myth.
You can't build a myth just on attitude. The numbers have to be insane, and Michael's were. We already talked about the 63 against Boston in '86, a performance so unreal that the opposing superstar called him God in human form. That wasn't even his peak, it was a preview. In the 1986-87 season, he averaged 37.1 points per game, becoming only the second player after Wilt Chamberlain to score over 3,000 points in a season. He didn't just score, he also became the first player to record at least 200 steals and 100 blocks in a single season, combining high-volume scoring with elite defense. Then came 1988, the year people still point to as one of the greatest individual seasons ever. He won the scoring title, League MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star MVP, and the dunk contest within a tight window of time. That's not just dominance, that's total control of the sport at every level. When the game was on the line, the numbers were just as wild. Jordan holds the record for the most game-winning buzzer beaters in NBA history with 9 regular season and playoffs, plus many more go-ahead shots in the final seconds that weren't technically at the buzzer. The shot over Craig Ello in 1989 is just the most replayed example. Fast forward to 1998, Game 6 of the Finals. Everyone in the building knows where the ball is going. Jordan strips Karl Malone in the post, walks the ball up the floor, crosses Byron Russell, and rises into that perfect, hanging jumper that basically signs off the Bulls dynasty. No timeouts, no fancy play design. Just a man who's built an entire career on being more composed than everyone else in the biggest moments. After he retired in 1998, the Bulls fell off a cliff. They went from a 62-win powerhouse to a 13-win disaster. In one low point, they only managed 49 points in an entire game, less than what Jordan had scored on his own in dozens of nights for Chicago. The gap between, with MJ and without MJ, couldn't have been clearer. So when people talk about his aura, it's not just the trash talk. It's that the trash talk always came attached to something like 63 or 69 or a soul-crushing buzzer beater. And somehow, even when his body started slowing down, the legend kept finding new material.
Even his old man years were a warning.
By the time Jordan joined the Wizards, he was supposed to be done. You're not meant to be terrifying at 38, 39, 40 years old. Someone forgot to tell him that. He became the only player in NBA history to score over 40 points after turning 40, and he did it twice. He wasn't the levitating, ring-kissing dunk machine from the 80s anymore, but the footwork, the timing, the mid-range game, all of that was still enough to hang 40 on kids who grew up watching his posters. The O.J. Mayo story is one of the most perfect old MJ tales ever. Mayo is in high school, a top prospect, attending Jordan's camp. He starts talking wild. "You can't guard me. You can't stick with me." That kind of thing. Jordan hears it, shuts the camp down for the night, sends the kids to their rooms, then brings Mayo back out. He tells him, "You might be the best high school player, but I'm the best player in the world." Then he proceeds to cook him possession after possession. Years later, both of them tell the same basic story. It was a lesson, one of many he delivered late in his career. There are countless stories of him beating current players one-on-one in quiet gym sessions, long after he officially retired, refusing to let go of that competitive hierarchy. He might not have had the same vertical leap, but the aura was still there, and sometimes that was enough. Even in the 2020s, when the GOAT debate shifts to advanced analytics and longevity curves, players like Allen Iverson still talk about him like there's no debate at all. Iverson has said LeBron is incredible, but when he talks about Jordan, he switches tone. We're talking about Black Jesus himself. Mike is always going to be the GOAT. That's the thing about aura. It doesn't retire just because your jersey does. But while the world was worshiping the competitor, something else was happening in the background. Michael Jordan wasn't just winning games anymore. He was winning capitalism.
From fear on the court to power in the boardroom.
On the court, Michael Jordan dominated the 90s. Off the court, he quietly set himself up to dominate the next 30 years. The Nike deal that started as a risky bet in the 80s turned into Jordan Brand, a global empire. Estimates suggest his partnerships with Nike alone have brought him billions in lifetime earnings, with tens or hundreds of millions per year in royalties even long after his last game. In 2010, he bought a majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets, then Bobcats for around $175 to $300 million. In 2023, He sold that majority stake in a deal reportedly valuing the team at about $3 billion, making roughly a 10x gain on his original investment. That sale helped solidify him as the richest former NBA player ever, with a net worth estimated around $3.50 to $3.8 billion. He didn't stop there. Jordan became a co-owner of the 3C Racing in NASCAR, expanding his presence into motorsports. In 2024, he was reported to be investing in Courtside Ventures, a sports-focused venture capital fund backing startups in sports tech, media, and related businesses. Then there's the side of the story that doesn't get as many highlight clips: philanthropy. In 2020, he pledged $100 million over 10 years toward organizations focused on racial equality and social justice. He also donated $10 million to fund Novant Health Michael Jordan Family Medical Clinics, including a new clinic in his hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, providing care for uninsured and underinsured patients. He's gone from the guy who terrorized defenders in the mid-post to the guy quietly buying mansions on the French Riviera while his sneaker line dominates shelves, and his investments shape parts of the sports world. So the aura evolved. First it was, don't talk trash to that man or he'll drop 40 on you. Now it's, don't bet against that man in any kind of business. But the more superhero-like the story looks, the more people want to understand the cost underneath it.
The price of being Black Jesus.
The Last Dance did something interesting. It reminded people how great Jordan was, but it also exposed just how ruthless he could be. You saw teammates roll their eyes, choke up, or laugh nervously when they remembered what it felt like to be on his bad side. Some guys said he made them better. Others clearly left with scars. In today's NBA, where mental health, work-life balance, and player relationships are talked about openly, Jordan's approach would be judged very differently, punching teammates in practice, calling people out by name in front of cameras, verbally tearing into an 18-year-old rookie. That stuff still happens in bits and pieces, but it's not celebrated the same way. It sparks conversations about toxicity, not just leadership. His gambling and nightlife were used against him in the 90s, especially when personal tragedies hit. The NBA looked into his gambling habits and didn't find enough to punish him. But speculation never fully stopped for some fans. It became part of his flawed god mythology, the idea that he was so addicted to competition he couldn't turn it off anywhere. Then you have the never-ending GOAT debate. Advanced stats and longevity arguments often lean toward LeBron. Rings, perfect finals record, and aura often lean toward Jordan. But the fact that the debate is even close shows how much the game and the conversation have changed over time. So what's the price? For Jordan, the price seemed to be that he was always on, always fighting, teammates, opponents, narratives, the scoreboard, his own boredom. He built a standard of excellence so high that even his own life became a treadmill he could never quite step off. The crazy part is, most people still look at that and think, worth it.
Conclusion: the legend that still walks into the room first.
Think about all the pieces we just went through. Other legends saw him and said he was glowing. A Hall of Famer called him Black Jesus after getting cooked for talking trash. An MVP rival called him God in disguise after watching him drop 63. His teammates survived war zone practices, got 6 rings, and decades later still tell stories about his SHT talking like they just got yelled at. Yesterday, he turned imagined insults into revenge games, card tables into battlegrounds, golf courses into motivational fuel. He put up seasons that look fake on paper, hit more game-winning buzzer beaters than anyone else, and walked away from the Bulls leaving a crater behind him. Then he took that same mentality into business, built a billion-dollar sneaker empire, bought and sold an NBA team for billions, invested in new sports ventures, and quietly funded clinics back home. His body retired. His myth didn't. In 2025, there are entire generations who never saw him live, who still know the shrug, the tongue out, the free throw with his eyes closed, the last shot in Utah, and of course the meme. And I took that personally. So here's the real question. Is Michael Jordan the greatest ever because of the stats and the rings? Or did he become the GOAT because he convinced everyone, teammates, opponents, fans, and even billion-dollar companies, that he was inevitable? Drop your answer in the comments. What's the wildest MJ story you've ever heard? And in your lifetime, do you think anyone will ever carry that kind of aura again? Or is Black Jesus a once in history phenomenon? Because no matter what side of the GOAT debate you're on, one thing is pretty clear. Michael Jordan isn't just a name in the record book. He's the standard everyone else still has to beat on the court, in culture, and in the imagination of anyone who ever picked up a basketball.